Morning guys. Agamong topic is about ni Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln was born in Backwood Cabin, 3 miles south of Hodgenville, Kentucky. His father Thomas Lincoln was the descendant of weaver apprentice who had migrated from England to Massachusetts in 1637. Thomas was a sturdy pioneer. On June 12, 1806. He married Nancy Hank. The Hank genealogy is difficult to trace, but Nancy appears to have been of illegitimate birth. She has been described as stud-shouldered, thin breast, and sad and fervently religious. So kaning mama ni Abraham kuan siya sa pagkaanak sa iyang mama, kuan siya kang straight shoulder nya, flat chested nya, masulubon nya, nay pagka-religyosa. Thomas and Nancy had 3 children, Sarah, Abraham, and Thomas Jr., who died in infancy. So tulo unta ni sila ka magigsuon ni Abraham, pero namatay lang ilang kinamanghuran sa tiyan pa lang. In December 1816, faced with a lawsuit challenging the title to his Kentucky farm, Thomas moved with his family to southwestern Indiana. There is a squatter on public land. So sa Indiana na public land dito na puro ra mga pobre kay squatter. He hastily put up half-face camp. So murag tukod rag kuan tent si kuan ato papa ni Abraham para nasulay ka silungan. Soon, he built a permanent cabin, and later he bought the land on which it stood. So taon niyang kinuan dito ang lugar, nagtukod siya bahay. Unya gitukuran sa bahay iyara kong gipalit. The unhappiest period of his boyhood followed the death of his mother in the autumn of 1818. So taod kuan sa iyahang kuan, dili kayo malipayon na kinabuhi ni Abraham, gisundan pud sa kamatayon sa iyang mama nya. Fortunately, before the onset of the second winter, Thomas brought home from Kentucky a new wife for himself. So agpapaday ni Abraham balik sa Kentucky nya. Pag uli niya gikan sa Kentucky, nagdaog bagong asawa kay matay lagi po rag mamatutino nila Abraham nya, aron napod sila mailap sa manghod ni Abraham na maila nga inahan mao to. His stepmother doubtless encouraged Lincoln taste for leading. So kuan niya stepmother ni Abraham murag duha maka-eskwela si Lincoln, si Abraham. Yet the original source of his desire remains something of a mystery. So murag na ni nakatanan po si Abraham na hantod karon wa pagyapon hantod atong pagkakuan na wa gyapon bawing anong kuan, anong nagtuon jud siya or this as siya nakatuon. In March 1830, the Lincoln family undertook a second migration, this time to Illinois, with Lincoln himself driving the team of oxen. Having just reached the age of 21, so ulitaw na siya, nagdibo na siya. He was especially noted for the skill and strength with he could wield an axe. With the coming of the Black Hawk War in 1832, he enlisted as a volunteer and was elected captain of his company. So, katunay ko sa Black Hawk War atong time naalista siya isip nga volunteer. So, makigira po kuno siya to. Nya na kuan po siya, na elect po siya na siya may makaptain. Meanwhile, and aspiring to be a legislator, so nana say kuan si ani si Abraham na magkuan din siya. He was defeated in his first try and he repeatedly elect to the state assembly. So nasa yung dagan siya isip ka sa kuan, isip mambaba napildi siya kinaunhan nya give suway gyapon siya balik nya murag nakabot to. Already having taught himself grammar and mathematics, so nana siya kuan sa iyang mga pagtuo ba niya kuan pod maayo pa siya kayo sa math. He began study law book, so wa ni siya yung eskwela ha, nagtuon na siya sa mga libro. In 1836, having passed the bar exam, he began to practice law. Save day ko. Nag-eskwela din siya ato. Napasar man niya. Prairie lawyer. The next year, he moved to Springfield, Illinois, the new state captain, which offered many more opportunities for a lawyer than New Salem did. At first, Lincoln was a partner of John T. Stewart, then to Stephen T. Logan, and finally, from 1844, of William H. Herndon, nearly 10 years younger than Lincoln. Herndon was more widely read. So, si Herndon, mas maayo pa kuno kayo mabasa ni Juan, ni Abraham. More emotional at the bar and generally more extreme in his views. Yet, partnership seems to have been as nearly perfect as such human arrangements ever are. It seems they had no many quarrels. With a few years of his relocation to Springfield, Lincoln was earning $1,200 to $1,500 annually, at a time when the governor of the state received as a salary of $1,200 and circuit judge only $750. He had to work hard to keep himself busy. He found it necessary not only to practice in the capital but also to follow the court as it made the rounds of the circuit. The coming of the railroads, especially after 1850, made travel easier and practice more remunerate. Lincoln served as a lobbyist on the Illinois Central Railroad. So, si Lincoln nakuha na siya. Kay murag nahilis na. So, si Lincoln murag siya rin kuhan sa lobby sa kuhan Central Rail, sa Illinois Central Railroads, assisting in it in getting a charter from the state, and thereafter he was retained as a regular attorney from the railroad. He also handled cases from other railroads and for banks, insurance companies, and mercantile and manufacturing firms. In one of his finest performances before the bar, he saved the Rock Island Bridge, the first to span the Mississippi River, from the threat of the river transformation interest that demand the bridge removal. Kuha na to ninyo. His business include a number of patent suit and criminal trials. One of his most effective and famous pleas had to do with a murder case. A witness claimed that by the light of the moon he had seen the Armstrong and acquaintance of Lincoln take part in a killing. Referring to almanac for proof, Lincoln argued that the night had been too dark for the witness to have seen anything clearly, with a sincere and moving appeal to an actual acquittal. By the time he began to be a prominent in national politics, about 20 years after launching his legal career, Clinton had made himself one of the most distinguished and successful lawyer in Illinois. So after mga 20 years, murag nakuha na, successful na kayo sa pagka-lawyer. Private life of Lincoln. While residing in New Salem, Lincoln became acquainted with Anne Rutledge. Apparently, he was fond of her, and certainly he grieved with the entire community at her untimely death in 1835 at the age of 22. Afterwards, stories we are told of a grand romance between Lincoln and Rutledge, but these stories are not supported by sound historical evidence. A year after death of Rutledge, so agkanidayng nauya po ni Kuan Abraham, namatay siya. Namatay bata pa, 22 years old. A year after the death of Rutledge, Lincoln carried on a half-hearted courtship with Mary Owens, who eventually concluded that Lincoln was deficient in those little links which make up the chain of human happiness. She turned down his proposal. Early politics. When Lincoln first entered politics, Andrew Jackson was the president. Lincoln shared the sympathies that Jacksonians professed for the common man, but he disagreed with the Jacksonian view that the government should be divorced from economic enterprises. So, among the prominent politicians of his time, he must admire Henry Clay and Daniel Webster. Clay and Webster advocate using the power of the federal government to encourage business and develop the country's resources by means of the National Bank, a protective tariff, and a program of improvement for facilitating transportation. From the outset, he associated himself with the party of Clay and Webster. So si Lincoln ngapil sa party list nilang kuan, Clay and Webster. As a Whig member of the Illinois State Legislature, to which he was elected 4 times from 1834 to 1840, Lincoln devoted himself to grandiose project for constructing with state funds a network of railroads, highways, and canals in 1837. So si Lincoln gikuanan na kuan kang gi-elect siya 4 times, pero siya mismo gi-devote iyang kagalingon kay nasa gi kuang project na dapat na niyang humanon kay aron makuan kuan po din. In response to the mob murder of Elijah Lovejoy, an anti-slavery newspaperman of Alton, the legislature introduced resolution condemning abolitionist societies and defending slavery in the southern state as sacred by virtue of the federal constitution. So kaya siya muraging naman tay criminal case na gikuan ni Lincoln, isip response sa usa ka kuan katong na pag-murder ni Elijah, iyang gipadayon ag katong pangagkuan sa anti-slavery. During his single term in Congress in 1847 to 1849, Lincoln, as the Whig from Illinois, gave little attention to legislative matters. He proposed a bill for gradual and compensated emancipation of slaves in the District of Columbia, but because it was to take effect only with the approval of the free white citizen of the district. So si Lincoln sa nakasod siya congressman sa mga duha ka tuig, nagkuan siya bill or batas para sa mga black man, dili kay sa mga puting tao. Lincoln devoted much of his time to presidential politics, to unmaking one president a Democrat and making another a Whig. With his spot resolution challenged me to statement of President James K. Polk that Mexico had started the war by shedding American blood upon American soil. Along with other members of his party, Lincoln voted to condemn Polk and the war while also voting for supplies to carry it on. His antithesis of the war, meanwhile, had not been popular among the voters in his own congressional district at the age of 40. So murag gaduha pa si Lincoln na mo madaog sa iyahang pagdagan og presidente, kay di man kayo sa ilado sa kuanjud sa ilahang nason. So ari na puntas lain chapter ni Lincoln, the road to presidency. So kaya siya kanang na kuan na siya kanang presidential. For about 5 years, Lincoln took little part in politics, and then a new sectional crisis gave him a chance to re-emerge and rise to statesmanship. So kaya siya to. In 1854, his political rival Stephen A. Douglas maneuvered through Congress a bill of reopening the entire Louisiana Purchase to slavery and allowing the settlers of Kansas and Nebraska to decide for themselves whether to permit slaveholding in the territories. So sa kangkuan ni Douglas murag gikuan niya ang pagkuan sa slavery holding kang pag-uyon ra sa mga kuan niya kang Lincoln kay antay, so di siya ganahana napay makuan, napay maulipon. It gave rise to the Republican Party while speeding the Whig Party on its way to disintegration. Lincoln soon became a Republican. In 1856, he was determined that he, not Douglas, should be the Republican leader of his state and section. So gipangusgan jud ni Lincoln nya ingso na siya sa Republican para si Douglas dili siya ganahan na si Douglas may mahimong leader sa Republican. Sayang nasod og sa iyang ginsakupan. Lincoln challenged the incumbent Douglas for the Senate seat in 1858, and the series of debates they engaged in throughout Illinois was political oratory of the highest order. Lincoln's prose and speeches, however, were eloquent, pithy, powerful, and free of the verbosity common in communication in his day. So, ato siya. In their basic view, Lincoln and Douglas were not as far apart as they seemed in the heat of political argument, but Lincoln, unlike Douglas, insisted that Congress must be included slavery from the territories. So si Kuan na to. Again and again he insists that the civil liberties of every US citizen, white as well as black, were at the stake. The territories must be kept free. He further said, because new free states were placed for a poor people to go and better their condition. In fact, when it was politically expedient to do so, he reassured his agendas that he did not endorse citizenship for black or believe in the equality of racism. So kang kuan ani kang Lincoln di siya magkuan sa mga unsay kuan nimo, unsay race, puti baka, itom baka, basta equality agihad yung gikuan para sa iyang pagdagan. Lincoln drove home the inconsistency between Douglas' popular sovereignty principle and the Dred Scott decision in 1857, in which the U.S. Supreme Court held that Congress could not constitutionally exclude slavery from the territories. In the end, Lincoln lost the election to Douglas, although that outcome not surprised him. It depressed him deeply. So si Lincoln dili na katingalahan na mapildi jud siya, pero nagdadyon niya kon depressed. On May 18, 1860, after Lincoln, his friend had made skillful preparation. So silang Lincoln kauban sa iyang mga higala, nagkuan na siya kanang nagprepare na siya para sa iyang pagkuan sa eleksyon. He was nominated on the third ballot at the Republican National Convention in Chicago. He then put aside his law practice and through making no stump speeches gave full time to the direction of his campaign. So si Douglas iya sang gipadaplin sa lang ang iyahang kuan, iyang say tawag gani pagkuan og low kay nag-focus sa iyang campaign. With the Republican unite, the Democrats divided, and a total 4 candidates in the field, he carried the election on November 6. So kani upat sila kabuok nga kuan nga ingdagan og pagka-presidente, pero sa kuan siya si Lincoln may nakadaog. President Lincoln, after Lincoln election and before his inauguration, the state of South Carolina proclaimed its withdrawal from the Union. The most important, the Presidency Compromise include constitutional amendments granting slavery forever in the state with it where it already existed and dividing the territories between slavery and freedom. He feared that the territorial division by sanctioning the principle of slavery extension from his home in Springfield. He advised Republicans in Congress to vote against a division of the territories, and the proposal was killed by committee. Those before Lincoln had even moved into the White House. This onion crisis was upon the country. Attention, North and South, focused in particular upon Fort Sumter in Charleston Harbor, South Carolina. This fort, still under construction, was garrisoned by U.S. troops under Major Robert Anderson. Foreseeing trouble, Lincoln, while still in Springfield, confidentially requested Winfield Scott, General-in-Chief of the U.S. Army, to be prepared to hold or to either hold or retake the fort as the case may required at the after of the inauguration. Outbreak of war. So sooner was he in office than Lincoln received word that Sumter garrison, unless supplied or withdraw, would shortly be starved out. On the one hand, General Scott, Secretary of State of William H. Seward, and other urged him to abandon the fort, and Seward threw a go between give a group of Confederated commissioners to understand that the fort would in fact to be abandoned. Finally, Lincoln ordered the preparation of 2 relief expeditions, one for Fort Sumter and one for the Fort Pickens in Florida. Before the Sumter expedition sent a message to tell the South Carolina governor, without waiting for the arrival of Lincoln expedition, the Confederate authorities presented to Major Anderson a demand for refuse on April 12, 1861. At dawn, the Confederate batteries in the harbor opened fire. Then Lincoln informed Congress when it met on July 4. The assailant of the government began the conflict of arms. The Confederate, however, accused him of being the real aggressor. So si Lincoln na nakuan, murag napabintangan na siya kung aggressive kayo kuan sa bahin sa gira. Lincoln's primary aim was neither to provoke war nor to maintain peace. Nalagay ito. After the firing on Fort Sumter, Lincoln called upon the state governor from troops in Virginia and 3 other states of the Upper South to respond by joining the Confederacy. So say kuan after sa firing na nanawag si Lincoln o kuan governor troops sa Virginia og tulo ka state nga iyang ginsakupan, but he still needed a strategic plan and a command system from General Scout advice carrying out General Scout advised him to avoid battle with Confederate force in Virginia, to get control the Mississippi River, and by tightening the blockade to hold the South in the gigantic squeeze. Overruling Scott, he ordered a direct advance on Virginia front, which resulted in defeat and route out for the Federal force of the Bull Run in July 21, 1861. So, mao to akong topic about ni Lincoln. So, sumpay ni Valintos. Salamat.
My topic is continuation of Hosinisli Amudia. The Leadership War. Abraham Lincoln set a high standard for leadership in the time of war. He called forth all resources of the nation, appointed to the agents of victory, set the strategy, took the necessary steps to restrain those who called the world and cooperate with the dishonest, and provided the rhetoric. So, dishonest means determination of union of disorder, walay paghahiusa ba? Rhetoric means kanang kamao mga istorya nga madala sa mga istorya, madala ra sa istorya ba? Madani. From 1861 to 1864, Lincoln experimented with the command personnel and organization, accepting the resignation of Scott. From November 1861, he put George B. McClellan in the charge of armies as a whole. In March 1864, Lincoln promoted Grant to Lieutenant General and gave him command of all the Federal armies. Abraham Lincoln was the first reluctant to adopt an abolitionist policy. So there is a wartime politics. To win a war, a President Lincoln has to have a popular support. Iyang kuan ba, gihangyo ang unity sa South or North. He entered the time and attention to politics. Nangayo siya suporta. He is a president, but dili niya kontrolado ba? Tanan ang kuan. Iyang gigamit ang skill sa talk to politician with their own language and the bravery. He has a talent for something over personal difference and holding the loyalty of men. Their deceit to one another. Inheriting the spoil system, he used it and strengthening the administration para sa kayuhan sa tanan ba. So sa time of post-war policy, at the end of war, Lincoln policy for the defeated South, not clear in all details, though continued to believe that the main object should be restored to ceded state, so-called, to their proper practical relation with the Union as soon as possible. He posed to fix an uniform program for the region as a whole. As he said the last public speech as his life, April 11, 1865, so great peculiarities and pretend to its own states such important to sudden change occurred from the time to time, and so new unprecedented was the whole problem that no exclusive and expressible plan. Argue of Siktam to government seats up to under his 10% plan during the war. So sa repetition of characters, Stanton is supposed to have said of Lincoln took his last breath. Many thought of Lincoln as martyr. So as assassination has occurred by Good Friday as following Sunday, memorable or Black Easter, hundreds of speakers found sermon and event. Some of us saw the their chance is packed assassination day as was crucifixion days. They declared Jesus Christ dead of the world, Abraham Lincoln dead for his country. Thus posthumous growth his reputation influenced by timing circumstances his death. Among the many remember Lincoln personal acquaintance, one of sure had known it more immediately that has raised influenced the word conception of him more than others to put together. So, mara dito sa topic sa continuation of Amodia. Thank you.